Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the coaching staff, is looking for replacements. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
What up, Nate H?
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, how you doing? It's spooky season. You having a good time?
I saw Terrifier 3 last night, or 2 nights ago.
Nice. Okay. Not totally my vibe, but I can appreciate what they're doing.
This is not a Nate thing.
What did you think of, I guess, if our listeners, I almost said fans. Ugh. Nobody likes that. If our listeners don't know what Terrifier, the film series, is, can you give a quick
elevator pitch? Is a demon who looks like a clown that does not speak and is kind of like an unstoppable killing machine. He just kind of walks around, like lumbers about and kills people. And it is. I would say it's as grotesque of a movie series as any horror movie I have ever seen.
Yeah.
It's very into the practical effects of being disgusting. So it is absolutely not for everybody. My lovely wife said that I'm a freak for going to see it in theaters and being excited for it. But I am a freak and I love that kind of stuff. And I had a great time. We had 3 people walk out of the theater at my viewing. Two of them made it like a thing, turned around, picked up their soda and stormed out. It was very funny.
What did they, I guess some people, this doesn't really happen anymore. It used to be you just sort of I'm going to the movies, what's playing? Yeah. And you just sort of go to the movies. That's not really how it works anymore. Right. I always imagine everybody in any theater has intentionally chosen the film that they're seeing that day. I guess even that, it was still worse than they were expecting.
I was pretty bad, but I was having a great time. I was sitting there chomping on my popcorn while people were getting, chopped up and exploded and all that stuff. It was, I had a great time. I love it. I'm a big horror movie guy. I think we've talked about that to some degree, but
Well, 'tis the season. Yeah. So, I've been watching a lot more horror films over the last few years, and that's still, I've come to appreciate them more than I ever have, but still there's parts I'm just like, this, I just don't want to see this. And Terrifier is straight in that wheelhouse of it's just not for me.
I do think you would enjoy Terrifier 3.
I guess I've never seen it.
A lot more straightforward than the other 2 movies. Yeah. It is just clown killing people. And the other ones, there's kind of a long walk at some points. There's I won't even describe it because people might be eating or something like that, but there's just some truly
woe be to whoever is eating and listening to us.
Well, fair point. I'm just not going to describe it because it's in bad taste, but there are some parts in the first 2 movies that it's more disturbing and odd that somebody would even decide to film this.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much just out and out violent for the sake of being violent.
Okay. Yeah. I do appreciate good practical effects. I don't think that's a particularly unique take, but I love the Mad Max. Mad Max Fury Road is maybe my favorite movie of all time. And if I'm not saying that, I'm probably saying Jurassic Park, both very famous for their practical effects. So it's something that I do appreciate a lot, but it's usually more how do we make this absolutely insane thing look real and not oh man, do you see how his skull was split in twine?
I also watched Event Horizon recently, which that is another
I have seen that movie. Yeah,
that's another. It's not as egregious as Terrifier 3 or the Terrifier movies, but there are some just nasty scenes. And hey, Sam Neill, tying it back to Jurassic Park. There you go. Wow, we're doing it, folks.
Wow, what a podcast.
Is this 2 white guys talking about movies? Let's talk about something else.
Well, it's funny you bring it up because I actually went and saw we took the kids and we saw The Wild Robot at Alamo.
See, that seems more like a movie that you show up to the theater and you don't know what you're going to see. And you're like, oh, you know what? I'll go see Wild Robot, not
Terrifier 3. Yeah. And went to Alamo, which is I love going.
We love it, folks.
Got the chicken tenders, which was the first time I had. I think I got it because of your recommendation.
I love those tendies.
I thought they were good. The thing that was phenomenal was the Hatch green chili gravy that you dip them into.
That's where it's all about. Yeah.
The chicken was fine. I think that my guess is that mine got done before everything else did. So it took, it kind of sat there for a second was my guess, but it was still very good. So I still feel strange with just like a big old plate of chicken in a movie.
Yeah.
But I was having a great time. Movie was mid. People are loving it.
Yeah.
I thought it was mid.
Is it a Pixar or a Shrek?
I almost said Dreamcast.
DreamWorks.
Yeah, it's DreamWorks.
So it's a Shrek. Yeah,
it's a Shrek. It is. It's based off of a book that I bet is really good. Probably tells the story better than the film did.
Sure.
I'm kind of surprised that the film is. It's like very revered right now. Incredible.
Do the kiddos like it?
Yeah, but also it's kids. They like.
I hate to be that guy that's like stumping for Terrifier 3 and like I'll just never watch Wild Robot. Yeah. But that is the guy I am, and it's just a fact.
I mean, I get it. I do like Pixar films. I like Dreamcast films if they're good. But I do it like it's very easy for me to be like, this sucks. Like I'm. They are very often just like emotional heart bait sort of thing,
Yeah.
And that I don't really get into that as much, but when they're done well, there's some of my favorite. Like WALL-E is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Classic, too. Love a WALL-E.
Yeah, love a WALL-E.
Hey, where's WALL-E 2? I'm asking for it.
Where's WALL-E 2? My favorite kids book. Can't find him. All those wacky characters. But anyway, I bring it up mostly to say that I kept because Terrifier was playing like right in the theater, like right next to us. And I was like, hope we don't accidentally go into Terrifier 3. How long do you think it'll take us before we realize we're in Terrifier 3 and not the Wild Robot?
Yeah. I think about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Wait, one's a cartoon. 1 second. Sorry.
We did another thing, 'tis the season that I thought you'd find interesting, related to a recent episode. I went and rode a tiny choo-choo over the weekend.
I saw, I was shared photos of this tiny choo-choo adventure. I think my little brother, my childless little brother tagged along.
Yes, this was.
He said it was a very cute, good time.
It was a very nice time. It was a beautiful day. We went out to Eureka and we rode a tiny little choo-choo. It was mostly like a kid-centered event. Your brother and his lovely girlfriend did attend, but we also like went by another, like there's a couple tracks and we went by another track with a train on it that was 100% adults, where there might've been like 2 kids on it at the very end, but they didn't look
weird vibe. All right.
Yeah. We all were like, okay, sure. Why not? I mean, it was a lovely day and you're out in the woods, out in Eureka. But it was fun. And it was choo-choo, which, we enjoy. We've talked a lot about trains recently on the show. But we also realized while we were out on it, that this little choo-choo goes right along what is known as Zombie Road, which is an apparently very haunted part of the world, Eureka, I guess. Okay. And so, of course, we were a little spooked. We were looking out for zombies, Dracula, Zorros, things like that.
Zorros?
Yeah, you got to watch out for Zorros. And then I was thinking, I have a very 2010 question for you. You're in your zombie
MGMT.
What's that?
Nothing.
You're in a zombie apocalypse situation.
Okay.
You got 3 St. Louis Cardinals organization affiliated, world. Yeah. Who you survive in the apocalypse with?
First overall pick is Jose Oquendo, the secret weapon. I think that in the zombie apocalypse, that footwork is going to be key.
Okay. Yeah.
And just experience is going to go a really long way. Then I'm taking Mason Wynn.
Okay.
Because he could hit. zombies' heads off, but can also throw 100 miles per hour. And I think that's going to be needed, you know, projectiles. And then I'm going to go with Nolan Arenado because obviously the intensity. But I remember reading that he has like a warehouse in like downtown LA somewhere that is like a baseball workout factory. And I feel like that might be a good place to hang out. You know, we could crack some beers.
Sure.
We could hit in the batting cages, just hang out, talk about life. Just be dudes, you know.
Dude, just dudes having
guys
fun.
being dudes. Yeah.
Talk about movies.
I think that, yeah. Exactly. Hopefully my Plex server would still be up. So
I'm
that
sure.
We could,
certainly the government will maintain vital resources like our Plex servers. I'm going Jordan Walker.
Yeah.
I need that muscle. He's he seems like a cool guy. He's fun, award-winning smile.
Yep.
Got those sad eyes. It's important. We need that. I'm going Miles Michaelis because I think he could probably like kill me a boar or something.
Probably. Yeah, that's smart.
And then I want someone who's actually smart and capable. So I'm going Katie Woo.
Oh, wow. Okay. Katie Woo. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
I don't know how I could possibly, you know, argue against that.
So that's my plan.
All right.
Okay.
I think I like my team.
Well, I like my team.
Well, fine.
All right. So speaking of Cardinals, we've got some Cardinal a little bit to talk about. Obviously the playoffs are in full swing right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So the news is still a little light. But we're starting to get some baseballs coming back already. AFL. How do you feel about the Arizona Fall League? Do you enjoy following the Arizona Fall League? How much do you get into it?
I you know how we criticize baseball all the time of being just the absolute worst and making their product as hard as possible to watch. It's why are these games not easier to watch?
Yeah,
this should be like they should be promoting this. I understand people not going to the games because they're during the playoffs and everything like that. But every other baseball nerd like us I would much rather be watching all these Cardinals minor leaguers or close to major leaguers play against some of the best minor leaguers in other teams' systems. It's kind of like an all-star tournament for the minor leagues, but like for weeks.
Yeah, I almost think of it like it's like a finishing school for the 2024 minor league players. You know, you don't always get all the stars, so it's not exactly an all-star game. You know, like we're gonna go over the Cardinals list here, and we'll notice some key, you know, people that we would call like the top of the class from the Cardinals are not there. But it's often some of the people who had the best seasons, or maybe some of the people who are the closest to being ready for the major leagues, or maybe were injured and didn't get to play as much. So it's usually some of your best prospects. And like you said, they get to play against great prospects from around the league.
Some non-Cardinals names that are out there, and I think anybody who's like a bit of a prospect nerd is just going to, you know, be excited to hear this. But Robert Hassel is playing, who is one of the best prospects in the Washington National system, and he has like a 14 gajillion OPS right now in a few games. Colson Montgomery is there. Tamar Johnson is there. Christian Encarnacion Strand is there. I'm just going down the list. Xavier Isaac, Jet Williams. Like some pretty big name.
Short king.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, he's like 5'8".
Hell yeah, let's go.
And his name is Jet.
And he's a shortstop. He's going to be a superstar. It's crazy to me that this is just not as easy to consume and partake in as I believe it should be. So I really like it though. Like you said, I think it's a finishing school. I think it's a big signifier for like what the organization thinks of the players. Like typically, like you said, it's kind of like a finishing school. It's why don't you go here, spend some more time, play against the best. And, hopefully this rolls over right into spring training, and people like Thomas Saggese, maybe you cement your place on the Cardinals 26-man roster next year. And I'll just go really quick down all the players, we'll just go down them one at a time so we can talk about them a little bit. But Thomas Saggese, I think probably the most notable name of the Cardinals players that are in the fall league right now. Obviously, he went up and had some time with the big league club, and I wouldn't say that he disappointed. We haven't really talked much about Saggese's performance. I wouldn't say that he disappointed. I actually thought that he looked pretty solid. I like the approach. I like the defense. I like the gritty guttiness. Mm-hmm. I like the no batting gloves. But all that being said, he's gone down there in only 5 games, and we'll keep tracking this. Saggese is hitting .368 with a .632 slug, totaling for an 1132 OPS. So he is just having a great little time down there, all obviously in very limited at-bats. But I think very exciting, and this signals to me that Saggese is very likely to have a serious role on the team next year.
Yeah. Saggese really only got 52 plate appearances at the major league level. Was not valuable from an offensive standpoint, though he did hit a dinger. You always love to see that power translate at least a little bit. He got one, but he was positively rated defensively. We're going to be talking about the perceived logjam all winter unless moves are made sooner rather than later. But I don't know what else he needs to do in the minor leagues. And to me, this is just getting him more near pro level at bats. It's that he can carry into spring. And then, assuming he probably coming in as a utility role, backup everywhere sort of guy in 25. Again, unless of course a major move is made. But I think it makes a lot of sense to have him get these at bats in this league and just keep it going.
Yeah. I'm maybe overly hyped on Saggese. I don't know. I think he might be really good, and I think it might take a second, and his production might be a little bit weird, but there's just something about him that I'm buying what he's selling.
Wow. Well, 23, he was looking like future all-star, right? Yeah. I think probably most people in the biz thought those results were maybe on the high side of expected outcomes for him.
Yeah.
But he still did do that, and he did it in the upper minors. He struggled a little bit more in 24, but still, I think he's done what you need to see to be at the major league level. And again, he's already considered like positive value defensively at the major league level, which buys you a lot of leeway, especially as a utility player when you know you can kind of trust him out there.
Another offensive player or position player that's worth talking about is Nathan Church, who I'm sure you're a huge fan of.
Love a Nathan.
That's it.
Yep. Love Church.
There we go. Love Nathan. Love Church. So if you are not familiar with him, center fielder, highly thought of glove. He did show a little bit of pop this year. He banged 9 bombs in Double-A, which was exciting, and stole a lot of bases. But he is definitely a glove first guy. He had a 100 WRC plus in Double-A for the year, and he's kind of come out and done that. It's not a ton of power, but it is a decent approach and great defense. He's only had 13 at bats so far. But another kind of exciting, this Nathan Church kind of has devil magic potential,
Yeah.
I guess he's very Siani like.
I'm always torn on these kinds of guys. The glove first, kind of fast, low pop, but maybe there's more game power to grow into it. Everything kind of has to break right for them to really become valuable at the major league level, but it does happen. Obviously, we've seen that with Siani. I think Siani is one of the biggest sort of question marks for 2025 to me. Like, is it real? Is the gains he made offensively going to continue into 25? Can he provide average value offensively while maintaining his Gold Glove level outfield defense? Like, I mean, he's a great example of that. Everything kind of has to go exactly right in his skill set to be really valuable. And I think Church is the same way, but it can happen, and you get there by playing games. So I'm glad he's here.
Yeah. It can happen. Yeah, that's a funny thought about Siani, because I kind of like, I'm sitting here right now thinking Siani's a lock for center field. And I guess you're not necessarily disagreeing with that. You're just saying, like, is that real? Is it going to happen? Does he have that in him?
I think he is. I'd be very, very surprised if he's not opening day center fielder.
Yeah.
I think he, has earned that. Despite the snub, the Gold Glove nominations are starting to come out. He was not selected for that.
Well, didn't we know that because he didn't have enough innings played or something like that?
Did he? I don't know. I guess I should.
I'm pretty sure he did not qualify for the innings, and he missed it by 7. Please tweet at us if
that would make more sense.
I'm pretty sure that is true.
But yeah, I suspect I'd be very surprised if he's not opening day starter at center field. But he just has that sort of profile where offensively everything has to go right for him to give that value, and not just be like a glove first sort of black hole out there. And I certainly want to believe that he made the adjustments, that he can be this sort of slap hitting, rope a double here and there, get on base okay, and be a Gold Glove center fielder where you're like, yeah, it's totally worth it to have him. But you could see a world where, especially if the Cardinals offense continues to struggle and he's hitting an empty 260, that they might start looking at, well, what if we do start Nootbaar in center field? Sort of stuff like that.
What if we do start him? I don't know. I kind of like that also.
Well, that's my point, right? You can very easily see a world where you say, okay, sure, Siani is an incredible outfielder, but we'll take the 350 OBP and 20 bombs from Nootbaar versus what Siani gives you. But again, Siani's still young. He could just keep getting better. And that's why I say he's a kind of a question mark to me about the long-term placement and use case of Siani.
The Cardinals also have a slew of minor league pitchers in AFL right now. Trent Baker, Ivan Henderson, Bryson Mouts, and Matt Swanson. Nate, I'll be totally honest with you. I had never heard of Trent Baker or Ivan Henderson prior to looking at the Arizona Fall League rosters. So I don't really have much to say there, other than let's go. And that's exciting. I guess them getting exposure. Maybe these guys they have some Raisian, Heimblum, spin rates or arm angles or whatever, that maybe this is a new part. Okay, I'm probably reading between the lines a little bit too much, but maybe this is some new Cardinals philosophy that is coming through. And maybe that's why these guys weren't originally on the map, and maybe why they're on the map now, and, glass half full.
Sure. Maybe. Doing a lot of work there for the team, but maybe
that's fair.
Yeah. I'm not seeing. I knew both their names, and maybe I just knew both their names from also looking at the AFL before this. But neither of them are showing up on MLB's top prospect list. So maybe this is a chance for them to break out, though.
Maybe it is. That being said, now Bryson Mouts. He has a little more pedigree. He had a pretty nice year at High A. He's only 22 years old. He threw 121 innings and looked pretty solid. There are the K rate, the walk rate, that stuff looks really good. He gave up a few too many home runs, which led to his ERA and FIP not being exactly where you need it to be. But I think the fact that those rates look good, the fact that he made 24 starts, that he has a slider that the team really likes, and the fact that he's playing Arizona Fall League is obviously good signs all around. He's a big guy, and he's young. So very curious to see how he performs. Is he moving to relief? Is he going to stay a starter? But kind of wild that he threw, the most innings he's ever thrown, and the Cardinals are like, go to the AFL and keep throwing.
Must be feeling good. Keep the momentum.
Yeah. So we'll watch Bryson Mouts. I'll learn how to say his name at some point. And I also want to talk about Matt Swanson because I'll be totally honest with you. I kind of totally forgot about Matt Swanson post trade deadline of not last year, but or this year, but the year prior. I kind of thought that he was just a throw in, whatever, but he was at Cardinals AA this year, had 63 innings, 63 and 2/3, and had 27 saves. Not getting a ton of strikeouts, nothing really popping off the page, but didn't know he'd made that change. That's obviously a good year in AA. And I guess kind of curious to see how he develops. It seems like closer or relief pitcher is definitely the way the Cardinals are going with him. And, as we know, or I think as most people know, when you move a starting pitcher into relief, you get that plus up on the stuff.
Sure.
And could be a diamond in the rough. I don't know.
Possibly. It's always hard to project these lower K guys in the minors. Obviously, that's what the Cardinals have basically been entirely full of for quite a while.
Where we make our money, Nathan.
But what was it, 27th in the league in K per nine?
Yeah.
But so normally you kind of want to see a high K rate in the minors, even if they're not strikeout guys, because it's inevitably going to go down as they get up into the higher levels.
Right.
Although AA, you're not that far away, but still you start to project a guy. If you start even taking a little bit off that K per nine at the major league level, you start to get a little bit worried. But obviously pitch to contact ground ball guys have been successful in the league forever. So yeah, maybe. Obviously he was pretty successful at AA, and that is what a lot of people consider the first level that starts to get you acclimated to what like true professional baseball is going to feel like.
Yeah. He's kind of at the level, like it wouldn't surprise me if he impacts the major league club next year.
Yeah.
See what that looks like. Of course, he's also 25. That should be pointed out. He's, on the older side.
Yeah.
But hey, if this is what you get for a Paul DeYoung,
right.
And he cracks the big leagues, that's a win.
Would it be very surprised if he makes it to the major leagues? Not on him anything personally, just what we got for a half a season from Paul DeYoung. If they end up being somebody who makes it to the major league level, you have to feel like that's a success.
Nate, you have to.
You have to.
I will make sure that
I'm going to find you and I'm going to make sure. Terrifier. Yeah. I'm going to Terrifier you.
Oh my God. His name is Art the Clown. Just to be clear, the movie's called Terrifier. Okay. So that's what's happening in the Arizona Fall League. We'll follow that and update, especially once we get some more like meaty stats to talk about, but kind of exciting. Again, I'll just go through that. Thomas Saggese, Nathan Church, Trent Baker, Ivan Henderson, Bryson Mouts, and Matt Swanson. A pretty large contingent from the Cardinals. So again, kind of fun. Another thing I wanted to talk about while we're talking about the baby Birdnals right now is that we need to take a moment and celebrate Jimmy Crooks. I think this podcast has been pretty pro Jimmy Crooks.
S-tier name also.
S-tier name. It's a perfect name for a catcher.
It really is.
Also. But Jimmy Crooks has won the MVP. He was an all-star. He's the St. Louis Cardinals minor league player of the year. Jimmy Crooks becomes the 6th Texas League most valuable player in franchise history and marks 3 straight years that the MVP played for Springfield. So before we start talking about Jimmy Crooks, can you name the 2 previous Texas MVPs that played for Springfield?
Well, Saggese was one of them, right?
Saggese is the first one, and that was in 2023, of course. Now, do you know the answer to the 2022? I will say, I'll give you a hint. How about this? He is no longer in the organization.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, I know it's like on the tip of my tongue, which no, I don't want to just try. No, I don't know.
I will give you one more hint.
Okay.
He hits dongs.
Oh, oh my God. Is it Moises Gomez?
Moises Gomez won in 2022.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, to keep this going, there are 3 other winners in between 2019 and 2011. Do you want to hazard a guess at those 3?
Jeez, it took me 2 minutes to think of the one from 2 years ago. Paul DeYoung.
No.
Okay. Colton Wong.
No. I will say the 2019 winner was recently traded to a team in the AL East.
Tyler O'Neill.
No.
Okay. I don't know. Stop making me guess.
See, this is what it's like when I have to play the games at the end of the episode.
I could totally do this, but I want to keep the. Well, I don't know if I could get him. I would happily play this game with you, but I want to keep the episode moving forward.
Dylan Carlson won in 2019.
Yes.
Oscar Taveras won in 2012. And Matt Adams won in 2011.
Nice.
Adams. Daff Adams. So, anyways, wanted to make you look stupid on the podcast. Let's talk about Jimmy Crooks.
My dude, no assistance needed.
What the fuck was that? You're just trying to big league me? What just happened there?
Yeah, big league you on me being stupid.
Just that character. I didn't like it. Made me feel uncomfortable.
Jimmy
Crooks. Wowie. He had a 156 WRC plus. He had an over 11% walk rate. This is all at AA. He caught almost 50% of all base runners.
He says no crooks allowed. There's something here. There's something.
That's good. That was good. Okay. You nailed it.
Got it.
Turn the show off.
Thank you.
I do. This is going to be the lost episode. I don't like it.
Oh no, I deleted it.
So anyways, spent all year, played 90 games, almost 400 at bats, wins the MVP. I think his star is shooting across the sky. Wow. I think he is only getting more and more exciting. He's only 22 years old. He'll be 23 next year. It seems very likely he will be in AAA. I don't know how long they want to cook him. Yeah. There's obviously a conversation. Cook the Crooks. Where do you put a catcher? This will likely be resolved by some type of trade. But it's kind of wild that the Cardinals have this weird problem where the big league club has 3 catchers, and then there are 2 catchers, Crooks and Bernal, in the minors who are ascending very, very quickly. And it's not just us; it's they're getting national attention at this point. I
will say, on a previous episode, I was feeling pretty torn and I'm kind of lobbying for holding on to Wilson Contreras. I think this is sort of the argument against that, right? Contreras is only getting older. He obviously rakes when he's healthy. And one of his key injuries this year was he got hit by a pitch, which is not really in his control. But we've got 4 or 5 catchers that seemingly all could play or are on track to play major league level baseball. So I think it brings me back to, like, if you can find the right deal, trade Wilson Contreras, because they're obviously becoming pretty stacked at the catcher position. But also catching is really, really hard, and most flame out within a year or two. So having like 4 or 5 that you think might be good will likely result in like 1 or 2 being long-term major league catchers. So I don't know. It might just make sense to just keep stacking catchers and see who really clicks.
Yeah. It is funny. Like, I feel like the Cardinals have had this never-ending wave of minor league catchers with varying degrees of excitement around them.
Yeah.
But, back to Carson Kelly, Andrew Kisner was considered a real prospect for a while. And then kind of the little logjam that we have going on right now. And then these two guys in the minors, it is the Cardinals have produced some catchers. And not all of them good. I thought Carson Kelly was going to do a lot more exciting things outside of the Cardinals organization.
Yeah. Well, but
he's still a Major League Baseball player.
That's what I was gonna say. He's still playing. He's still starting for teams. So like that they're, again, most catchers, they're like NFL running backs, they only make it a few years until they just get totally broken from the position.
So we'll see. But anyways, congratulations to Jimmy Crooks, MVP. And the most recent Cardinals Springfield Texas League MVP of the past 3 years. Kind of crazy to have 3 of those in a row, and like Moises Gomez is gone, Thomas Saggese, he could click, and Jimmy Crooks is like just now getting on the kind of national overall ranking radar, all that stuff. But it's just funny how prospect rankings can go, and even though you're the MVP of the league, that doesn't necessarily mean all that much.
Yeah. I think that's sort of the strange thing with AA too, and really just minor leagues in general. You have such a range of ages and skill sets and like stages of career, where you can just be like 25 in AA, and that makes you just better than everyone in a way that you can't. It's just like biology. You're playing you can be playing against like a 21-year-old or 20-year-old, and you're just physically bigger and stronger. And so
I think about that all the time. Like if I'm out there, if I go play Little League today, I would dominate.
You would crush them. When I was in high school, gym class was an elective, or not an elective, but you got to pick what year you did gym. And
would it surprise you to learn that I was somebody who took gym every single semester of high school?
No, it's like one of the least surprising things that you've ever said. And then would it surprise you to find out that I waited until my senior year to do gym and got a D in it?
You got a D in gym?
Yeah,
how?
Because I never went.
Nate, you should have seen how cool Nate looks right now. After he said that, it was like the most badass thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. But what was funny about it is that it was me and a handful of friends. We all did the same thing, and we all had it together. And most people would do it in their freshman year. And so you're looking at me and a couple of my friends, so just deeply unathletic people. But we're nearly 18, and we're playing against like 13 or 14-year-olds. So it was, it's kind of what I imagine some of this is like for these guys that are in their mid-20s playing at lower level, minor leagues.
Yeah. It's fun. I can like you like to run, and I feel like you like to sport a little bit more now than you used to. Maybe you've grown into that more than when you were a cool 18-year-old.
For sure. I think absolutely my interests have evolved. I was a theater, and, I enjoyed baseball. I always have, but I was a theater kid. So the idea of sporting was not particularly important.
Were you one of those people that called it sports ball?
No, I've always found that obnoxious.
I don't like that.
Yeah. It just never was for me. So I would we'd have gym class, and I would just walk out of it and go to the theater, or like.
You're really taking from your badass mythology that I was trying to build for you.
And then I would go and rob a bank, and
there we go.
Smoke cigarette.
Yeah. Ooh, hey, we both think smoking cigarettes is cool.
Nothing cooler than smoke. Yeah. Smoking is back.
We're pro cigarettes. Let's be very clear about that. All right, let's keep talking about the St. Louis Cardinals and the baby Birdinals, because that's really all we have to talk about right now. Derek Gould wrote earlier this week that the Cardinals led all 4 minor league levels in innings pitched by starting pitchers this year, which was a stated goal for the organization, since the simple idea was the pitching prospects could learn just from working deeper into games. As explained by Cards pitching coach Dusty Blake, quote, "You find out that once you get to pitch number 80, it's hard for you to get your breaking stuff down. So here is the adjustment to make sure if you've got to beat this guy a third time. If a pitcher isn't taken out to manage innings or avoid a jam, there are ancillary pieces that you continue to learn and adapt with the workload. You find out about yourself as you experience some fatigue. How do you keep competing and making pitches to give that best chance?" So I read this and I understand on principle what they are talking about. And I understand that a lot of teams are doing the exact opposite. And they're kind of more focusing on stuff and strikeouts and high RPMs. And I think that makes a little more sense. And I'm very confused as to why this is something that it was a point of focus. I understand why the old guard would consider this a point of focus, but it's funny to hear this kind of bragged about in the off season when we all have our opinions on the Cardinals' ability to develop pitching.
Yeah. Like, I was thinking the exact same thing. On the one hand, it's nice to hear that there was a plan and they executed on the plan, because certainly seems, and the reporting would tell us, that there hasn't been much coordination across the minor leagues when it comes to player development. So setting a goal of, we want to lead the league in starting pitcher innings and succeeding in that plan across every level. Okay, cool. Promises made, promises kept.
Yeah.
But the plan itself was confusing to me because, like you said, it feels like every organization is going more towards matchups, stuff, shorter outings, etc. Partly because of pitcher injuries and the pitch clock and all that, but also just modern data and the mixing and matching. We just saw the Dodgers and the Padres. It's a short series. Obviously, you can accomplish more in that than you maybe can over a whole season. But they had against Fernando Tatis, he saw like 12 or 13 different pitchers in that series. He saw the same pitcher twice, only a couple times, and it was obviously effective. He was still he still had a pretty good series. Don't get me wrong, but they managed to mitigate him to some degree, and they won the series. And I think that's just the way baseball is headed. So I was a little confused to see them maximizing innings. Now, if they think that if I could see maybe the thought process being like, well, we don't actually intend to use them that way long term, but we want them from a player development standpoint to learn how to make adjustments despite how your body is feeling. I could see that being valuable. And that is what he says in the quote, that they need to learn how to make adjustments and get the pitch down, even if you're not feeling great. So I get that. And I see why that would be valuable. And you can really only do that by stressing them to that degree. But so much of the league is moving away from seeing a person the third time through that it just seems like, is this worth it? What are your thoughts?
Yes. I agree with everything you said. My issue is that this is not the type of development that is important for young players. I think the type of development that is important is developing the best, nastiest pitches you can possibly develop. And if you can do that for 5 or 6 innings, you can be a starter. If you can do that for 1 inning, you can be a reliever. If you're somewhere in between, we'll find a role for you. But I think the premium or the focus should be on premium stuff. and then you'll figure out where it goes after that. Yeah. I don't think this go out there and figure it out kid, and pair that with the fact that we know that we're not using a ton of advanced data. We don't have special instructors. It's just the kid going out there, being tired and performing poorly, and we are hoping he's learning from it. That is so silly to me. But go develop a great fastball, slider, changeup combo, and we'll figure out where that fits in later. What part of the ball game, what role, but go get the nasty stuff. And like I said, everything else will kind of fall into place. I don't hear any of the teams that I would consider smart or good at developing pitchers talking about this idea. And I think that conditioning is one thing. And I think this is kind of what he's getting at. And adjustments are another thing. But this sounds like some
old-timey, get out there, boy, and throw it till your arm falls off.
Yes. And I also think that prioritizing bulk innings isn't necessarily the smartest way to develop kids in general. Especially, if they're in their early 20s and they haven't thrown that many innings before. I think stretching them out is important. But I'm just not sure there's a ton of I'm just not sure it makes a ton of sense. That being said, I also could see this as a complaint, an evaluation from minor league pitchers coming up saying I get to pitch 40, coach, and I don't know what to do. And this is how they're combating that. And I just they don't have the resources or the thought or the ability to be more creative or more specific about how to challenge this. So they're just going at it directly. So maybe that's the thought. Maybe it's just that simple. And maybe it just, whatever.
And that's what I'm wondering. There's obviously the stretching out longevities thing of it, and I kind of already said it, but this might be more about just that mental side of the game, and if you can make adjustments at 85 pitches and get it done, it might help you make adjustments at 3 pitches when you come out of the gates and it's not working right. You know, you're getting more in tune with your body. You're getting more in tune with what you can and can't do. And so that's what they're working on, more than just let's make sure that they can go 6, 7, 8 innings.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right.
I guess we'll see.
We'll see.
I do wonder where this directive came from, because this was this year. So, we've talked a lot about trust in Chaim Bloom. I'm curious, did he sign off on this, or was he still just I'm kind of learning? Is he gonna? I guess it'll be interesting. A good answer to this question will be is if they set a similar goal in 2025.
It sounds like something that would come up in Adam Wainwright's exit interview. And
Me and Chris Carpenter were talking the other day, and we think the youth, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Now here's my new hit single.
All right.
If God were a fastball.
That's a hit. I like that.
God throws curveballs.
If God was a fastball, would you swing at it or would you take it?
I think you got to take it.
If it's a good pitch to hit, I'm swinging.
Yeah.
Last piece of Cardinal news I wanted to talk about was it has been reported that Dirty the Clutch, Daniel Descalso, is on the short list of possible replacements for the White Sox managerial opening. Wowie, wee wow, wow.
It's the Cardinal way, baby. It's everywhere. John Jay's out there. Obviously Skip's out there. Descalso's out there. Alan Craig is working in a front office somewhere.
It's there could be it seems highly likely that next year there will be 4 major league managers who are all in the Cardinal system.
Yeah.
At one point or another. Skip, I think, is a lock to sign somewhere. I haven't decided exactly where I think he's going to go yet. But Dirty Dan might be in the mix here. And I don't, the White Sox can't have a worse season. It is statistically almost impossible for them to have a worse season. So maybe he can hop on there and right the ship and, gritty gut win, all that good stuff, those
gritty
intangibles.
Gut.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'd be surprised if they don't just stick with Sizemore. People seem to like him, and they did do a little bit better after he took over, but it'd be fun to see Dirty Dan up there.
I think Sizemore was more of just a mascot than a manager, because I think he had zero experience, and I'm not even sure he wants to do it.
Yeah, which is it.
I think he was the one person in the room that they didn't fire, so they're like, "Okay, you're it."
Yeah, but he's not his mascot. He's not like he's a famous White Sox.
No. He's a famous Indian, I guess. Really, isn't
it? And really only if you were a big fan of baseball in exactly his little window. I mean, he's a great, like what if, right?
Yeah. But I guess we'll see. Maybe it'll be Sizemore. Maybe it'll be Skip. Maybe who knows? But it's interesting that he is already being tagged after 1 year. We'll see. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
And that's all I got for Cardinal news.
All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about the playoffs and some other league news. But before we do, we want to remind everybody that the show is listener supported by listeners like you out there eating right now, maybe watching Terrifier.
Don't do that. I had popcorn. I thought that was fine.
Yeah. I can't imagine like eating anything.
You wouldn't want to get your chicken fingers from Art
the Clown is just yeah. Okay, so if you want to support the show and support it directly, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We use the money to pay for hosting and equipment and just making the show consistent and better, getting more access to, trying to get more people get access to our show, things like that. So if you have enjoyed the show and enjoyed the time and effort that we put into it every single week, we'd really appreciate it if you'd take the time to check out the Patreon and consider joining. Patrons at any level get access to our private Discord server. Tweet, baby. It's the Bird Scored. It's a great place to chat with other Cardinal fans, get away from shitty social media, and just kind of enjoy Cardinal baseball in a way that maybe you haven't before. We have a bunch of other cool stuff, t-shirts and things like that. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. You could also tell your friends. The off season is upon us. Actually, an interesting time to get into a Cardinal podcast and kind of get into the Cardinals. We think that this off season and next year are going to be a really interesting, fun time, despite maybe not winning a lot of games. And we'd love it if you'd invite your friends to come along for the ride. And lastly, if you would open up that little podcast app and give us a rate and review, it really does help. Hambone, where else can people find us and support us online?
Yeah, we exist on shitty social media platforms like Twitter @TalkAboutBirds, where on Instagram @TalkingAboutBirds. You can look at our faces on TikTok. We're doing TikToks all the time. You can come look at them on TikTok. If you prefer to listen to this show on Spotify or YouTube, you can do that. You can email us any thoughts, questions, concerns to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And as always, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message to 848. I always screw this up. 848. Oh my God. 848-48 birds. It's 848-482-4737.
You kept saying all the right stuff, so you were
the numbers were jumping around on the page on me, Nate. I don't know what was happening. It was I saw my life flash before my eyes. That was terrifying.
Art the Clown just popping through the screen.
Yeah, that's what happened. Let me one more time. You can call us and leave a voicemail or text us at 848-48-birds. That's 848-482-4737.
Wow.
Boom. Nailed it.
He did it. Got it in one.
Yikes.
All right, let's check in on the playoffs. We are in the middle of the championship series, the league championship series.
Yeah.
So we've got the Guardians and the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers For a lot of us, near worst case scenario as far as the championships go.
Man.
I think right now the Guardians are probably the most rooted for team in baseball by a mile. Unfortunately, they are currently down 2-0 and looking pretty overmatched right now, but there is still plenty of baseball left. Did you see they intentionally walked Juan Soto to get to Aaron Judge?
I did.
Now, I personally love the disrespect shown to Juan Soto, my mortal enemy. But I guess it kind of worked because Judge only had a sacrifice fly as opposed to.
Wouldn't that be disrespect to Aaron Judge?
Damn it, you're right.
You dumbass.
Which that's even more insane.
It is.
I mean, Soto's been playing very well. Either of them. I guess you don't want to do back-to-back bad at bats.
I think it really only makes sense if you are feeling, obviously they hit from different sides of the plate. If you're really feeling good about your pitcher getting out a right-hander as opposed to a left-hander, I guess it can make sense. I also, with the way that Giancarlo is swinging right now, this is kind of what I was talking about, why I thought the Yankees were going to go far. It's a huge chunk of the lineup that you have to get through. And if any other players are playing around them with any production, like it's two of the best hitters in baseball. It's a huge problem to solve 4 or 5 times a night. And the Guardians pitching is fine. But I don't like Class A, Bibby. There's a couple of guys you have a ton of confidence in, but getting those guys out, like I said, 4 or 5 times a night is super difficult.
Yeah. And right now the Yankees are playing pretty well across the board. So still hoping for a good series. But it's going to take a lot for the Guardians to come back and take this one. So, we'll know by next week, but I'm fully anticipating at this point a Yankees World Series visit, and they will play one of the Mets or the Dodgers. And this series is tied. It's been a good series so far. My pick for the World Series from the NL was the Dodgers. I'm still feeling that way. But obviously you've been calling the Mets a team of destiny, and they are currently 3 wins away from the World Series. So it could happen.
I think they have team of destiny vibes. I think that Francisco Lindor is unstoppable. The idea, there was another very exciting, you walk Lindor to get to Vientos, and Vientos, takes your team to the championship series.
Yeah.
They legit. Have that dude. That kind of, he is.
Vientos might hit 45 bombs next year.
And I think they're going to bring back Pete Alonso and, on like a 4 or 5 year deal. And those two guys, that's a lot of thump. Lindor is an MVP candidate. So tonight, this is going to be outdated as soon as this comes out, but they have Buehler versus Severino. I kind of think I think Buehler will get a job as a starting pitcher somewhere next year. He'll be a free agent at the end of the season. But I'm kind of wondering at this point is just maybe Walker Buehler is not the Walker Buehler of a couple of years ago anymore. And if he's just kind of this guy, and that's not a bad pitcher, but is not a top 10 pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
And
it was another Tommy John, right? That's what he, I think that Tommy John has become so normalized. Mostly for a good reason. The doctors have gotten incredible at it, and we've gotten really good at recovery, and we want that to be that way, right? But we also, the reality is it's not that way for everybody. And Buehler, unfortunately, right now is looking like someone who maybe is not coming back from his second Tommy John in the way that others have. Though, again, it can take years sometimes.
Yeah.
And so he might be a good buy low candidate for a team that's rebuilding. Maybe like the Cardinals. What do you think?
Bring in a guy, flip him at the trade deadline if he has a nice year. He's going up against Severino, and I think the world of Severino. I think he has just an incredible arm, great stuff. And I think they have a bit of an advantage, especially if you can keep Ohtani's been quiet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the Mets, but in this situation, I don't like the Mets at all outside of the situation. That being said, Nathan, I don't know if I could hate a Subway Series World Series. That is like, that is the worst possible outcome for me.
Yeah. 100%.
Because at least New York Dodgers, I hate that too, but that's less worse than me. Because you get a little, it's East Coast, West Coast. There's fun, you probably get a lot of stars out for that. With New York, it's just like,
we don't want Sinatra here, okay? Old Blue Eyes, get out of here, New York, New York.
Yeah, I just don't want it. It's not.
Yeah,
but it seems like a highly likely outcome. So we'll see. Maybe Ohtani wakes up tonight and the rest of the series, and that really turns it on his head. How about Freddie Freeman playing through this ankle? I mean, he looks. I'm kind of shocked that he's playing. He is that good of a hitter, I suppose. But
yeah.
Shout out to Freddie for kind of just dealing with it.
Man, this is the stuff legends are made of.
Wow. Man. Okay, now I think you're a badass again. That was cool.
Let me pull out my cigarettes.
Okay. Even cooler.
Let me get on this choo-choo.
Were you smoking cigarettes on the train?
Of course.
Yeah.
Surrounded by mine and my friends' children.
Yeah, that's badass. That's so cool. So one thing I wanted to call out, it's Guardians, Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets. And as we were just talking about with the Cardinals managers all over MLB, there are just Cardinals players all over MLB. So I think this is a fun little wrinkle. For the Yankees, we have Luke Weaver, who is the best closer in baseball.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
He hasn't given up a run throughout the playoffs. He's looked fantastic. And I swear to God, he looks like he has not aged a day since he left the Cardinals. Lane Thomas on the Guardians, he's had a pretty good run so far. The Dodgers obviously have Tommy Edman playing center field and shortstop, and then Harrison Bader on the Mets. And I just wanted to call out, I thought that was pretty fun. Bader's the only one who's not like a everyday starter type player. And I guess, Luke Weaver, he's the closer. So he's a part of the core of the team. But just kind of fun. So you can kind of, if you're having trouble rooting for any of these teams, maybe just pick your favorite former Cardinal and, have fun with that part.
Yeah, there's 4 players each on one of these teams. So no matter what, a former Cardinal is going to win a World Series. And Luke Weaver, not necessarily a big fan favorite, but everyone knows him. Everyone at least remembers him as part of the Paul Goldschmidt trade, if anything. But Tommy Edman, fan favorite. Harrison Bader, fan favorite. And Lane Thomas, I was a big fan of Lane Thomas. And it's been a lot of fun watching him be good. He had that huge grand slam, in the DS. So he's really become something pretty impressive over the last couple of years. So it's fun to see him have success on the big stage.
Yeah. Just kind of funny how that works out. When I was looking at this, I was shocked to see that Lane Thomas is still only 28 years old. Seems like he's been around forever. But yeah, he's been solid.
Agent after this year?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's part of why they traded him. He might get paid. He's had a good couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, he could play center field.
Yeah,
he's got a good arm. He's got some thump.
28.
We'll see what happens.
You're hopefully buying some of his peak years. I mean, I don't think he's going to get like a crazy contract.
No.
But, Brandon Nimmo, I mean, I know it was Steve Cohen in the Mets, but Brandon Nimmo just got like $150 million or whatever. So someone might stretch a little bit for Lane Thomas.
He could get some generational wealth. That would not surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All right. I guess we can get into league news. I don't have a ton of league news because really everything's just wrapped up in the playoffs right now. I'm sure everybody saw after the hurricane that came through Florida and ruined everything. To put a baseball spin on it, I guess, which now feels weird when I'm saying it out loud. But the Rays Stadium was hit by the hurricane, and the officials are saying that it is possibly inoperable for next year.
Yeah,
and we don't really know where the Rays could potentially play.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, caveats aside, there are far more important issues that have stemmed from the hurricanes in Florida. But from a baseball world standpoint, this is pretty huge. The Rays, who already have issues with where they play and attendance and everything, now almost certainly do not have a stadium in 2025. And I don't know. I can't think of even the A's, who are not going to have a stadium in 2025, has been known for a while, and we're able to the league's able to prepare. 5 months there's supposed to be Major League Baseball there, and so where are they going to play? I mean, I know
we're going to have 2 teams in the AL playing in a minor league ballpark.
Yeah. Now, for the Rays, it might increase attendance if it's anywhere else than where it was. But still, it's going to change a lot. These smaller stadiums, ballpark factors are totally different. They're often better offensive environments. So what's that going to do to the Rays?
And they play in the East with a bunch of huge bats.
Juan
not
Soto
to mention
and Judge Pitt playing in a tiny minor league stadium. A lot. So it's interesting.
And how do you play in South Florida or sorry, I guess that's kind of like North Florida without a roof?
Yeah. Well, they're just not going to, right? They might not even end up in Florida. Who knows?
Maybe they'll go up to Montreal for the year.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Did you see this, Nate? Did you read about this? There were destroyed pieces of Tropicana Field being sold on eBay. There was a section of outfield turf going for $900.
Sickos. I love that. Just people out there, I got a piece of dirt, selling it for $900. Hell yeah, get paid.
And the last piece of league news I wanted to talk about was that the qualifying offer has been set at $21.05 million. Obviously a record, the highest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Now, that will not affect the St. Louis Cardinals in the slightest, but newsworthy and just kind of wild that it's that high.
Yeah, I was thinking if the Cardinals tried to do that for Goldschmidt, he'd just probably snap call, right?
That's what I would. If I was him, for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly getting up there. I mean, it's getting to the point where, and it's supposed to scale with the league. So ideally, it's always felt this way for the league, where it can't. It's not supposed to be something you just give out willy nilly. It should be kind of enticing for the player. But for some reason, crossing that 20 million mark and going all the way up to 21 million makes it feel like damn, that's a lot. And I feel like qualifying offers are just going to continue to reduce.
Yeah, I mean, Colby Rasmus would
snap that up.
Oh my goodness. All right, that's all I got for you.
All right, it's been a little while since we played this. We're going to return to our favorite. Who is this guy? So here's how the game works. I have a list of clues about a player who at some point in their career played at the major league level for the St. Louis Cardinals. The clues start very vague and get more and more specific. Ben has to guess which player this is. There are 5 total clues. We'll start here with number 1. He has to make a guess after every clue. All right. This player was born on June 27th, 1970 in Fullerton, California.
June 27th, 1970, Fullerton, California. Okay. So I got a general age range or an age. Let's see. Fullerton. I don't know where Fullerton is. Based on that general age, California, I'm going to guess Jimmy Ballgame.
Damn it. Got it.
Oh, let's go. Wow.
I hate it when you get it on the first one because it significantly impacts the quality of the game. But I got to give it to you. Yeah, you got it in one. Jim Edmonds.
Oh, wow. Remember when I trivia'd you earlier and you totally shat the bed and then I dominated
got 2 of them.
Okay.
Shut up.
All right.
All right. Well, here's the other clues.
Yeah. Let's hear
it. All right. So this player.
Nate is physically upset right now. I can see it in his...
This player played for, in no particular order, the Padres, the Cubs, the Brewers, the Reds, the Angels, and St. Louis.
Yeah.
You might have got it after that.
I may have gotten it there just because it's just Jimmy. He's just such a big star. It's easy. I just remember a lot about him.
Yeah. I figured you would, if you didn't get it after that, you were going to get it after this one. On June 1st, 1988, he was drafted by the California Angels in the 7th round of the 1988 amateur draft. And then he was traded to STL in 2000 for Kent Bottenfield and Adam Kennedy.
Yeah. I didn't know that he was a 7th rounder, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Next guess, while no slouch at the plate, he was most known for his prowess in center field, winning 8 Gold Gloves.
Yeah.
And then finally, is now possibly more famous for his time on The Real Housewives of Orange County and talking about his text messages as part of the broadcast team.
Definitely would have got that one.
All right, well, you got it in one.
Yeah, I rule.
I was trying to find the balance of this game on doing like obscure Cardinals and like the ones everyone knows. Because I think ideally our listeners are kind of playing along, and if I do these like deep cut guys, like no one knows who the fuck we're talking about. But maybe Jim Edmonds is too big.
Yeah, I think so. And just like our age, and he's ever present.
Yeah. So.
And I don't think he's that bad on the broadcast. I actually like Jim Edmonds a little more this year than I did in years previous, which might be a bad take. But I thought he was entertaining. As I thought Brad and Chip just got so monotonous. It's like a pull string toy. Like they just say the same things over. Yeah.
Yeah. This year I listened to the broadcast less than I ever have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's probably pretty damning. But yeah, I mean, what I've said always with Jim Edmonds is that I think he's probably the smartest baseball guy in the booth. And when he is talking about the players, their plate approaches, what the pitcher's trying to do, defensive establishment, all that, he's one of the best. Absolutely. It's everything else that drives you crazy. So the less he talks about it, everything else, I'm the better. Maybe he's taking the note.
Yeah. Yeah. Go Jimmy.
Go Jimmy. Well, now on the field, I've been a staunch Jimmy ballgame should be in the Hall of Fame. But he got like 2% of the vote and fell off the first ballot. So wasn't even close.
It is weird that worked out the way that it did. I think I would not be surprised if he gets in somehow.
Well, a lot of people, myself included, sort of attribute some guys like him not even getting a chance because of the log jam created by all the steroid guys who should be in the Hall of Fame. So every year you had 40 to 50% or you had a bunch of guys just constantly getting 40 to 70, 60%. Which they should have just gotten in on the first one, and then all those votes would have matriculated out to other players, and more people would have gotten the observation that they deserve, sort of the discussion. But when half the voters were contributing a third of their votes, a fourth of their votes to a set of guys that were never going to get in every year, it just thinned the whole process, and a bunch of guys didn't get the discussion that they deserve. There are arguments to say Jimmy should not be in the Hall of Fame too. And he's definitely an edge case. Kind of depends on how you view the Hall of Fame. But I personally, and I know I'm biased here, but I personally think he absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame.
So if you don't think Jim Edmonds should be in the Hall of Fame, peep this. I just pulled his 10 best years, which were 1995 through 2005. Where would you think that he ranks in WAR, for that 10-year window? I'll tell you right now. Number 1 is Barry Bonds.
Sure. So what number does he rank in WAR?
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys in that period, 95 to 2005.
Yeah. I won't give you too much time. I won't try to quiz you again, but do you want to make a guess before I just tell you?
13th.
Way off, Nathan. Brian Giles. Do you remember Brian Giles?
I do remember.
Padre?
Yeah.
He was 13th. Jim Edmonds, number 3 with 58, almost 59 WAR. Goes Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, Jim Edmonds, Jeff Bagwell, Chipper Jones. So all of those guys should be in the Hall of Fame, including Jim Edmonds. I think if you're the best at your position for 10 years, that's pretty much all I need.
Yeah.
And he was clearly that and more.
Yeah, so I feel the same way. I honestly can't believe he was third though. I was starting high in my head, but then I started thinking of Chipper Jones, a lot of those guys. I figured he would just be below them.
He was more valuable than Andrew Jones, Ivan Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez, Jim Thome, Sammy Sosa. Obviously, not all these guys played the whole 10 years. Mike Piazza, Scott Rowland, Gary Sheffield, Larry Walker, Jeff Kent. I mean, a ton. Derek Jeter, by the way. A ton of Hall of Famers and a ton of great players. And Jim Edmonds, number 3 in his peak window, which was, again, 10 years, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So fully, I believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. When you look at his total WAR compared to other center fielders and things like that, against the broader scope, I think that's where you start to get the argument against him. But I'm a believer of exactly what you just said, is that all we can really do is compare these players to the time in which they played. And if you were, in this case, the best player at your position for 10 years straight, what more could you do to be a Hall of Famer?
And it's not like he turned into a total scrub after his peak.
Yeah.
He was a fine player, was picked up. He just wasn't, that beast. But yeah, I'm looking at some of the other names on here: Craig Biggio, Jason Giambi, Vladimir Guerrero, Edgar Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, there's names, star-studded list, and Jimmy is basically at the top.
Yeah. Well, Guerrero is below Jimmy on almost every single meaningful stat. It's just everybody it's the inverse Curt Schilling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Vladdy should be in as well. Totally. But yeah, it's crazy. Just, I never pulled that up. So yeah,
at the very least, he should have gotten more than 2.5% of the vote, and he should have gotten multiple years on the ballot and gotten the discussion that guys like him should get.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Let's start that campaign. Let's get Jimmy in.
I think he's probably in that murky middle ground. He needs to be 30 years older, and a bunch of people vote him in a veterans committee or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 2 humble podcasters. We can make our dent.
I'm not going out on a limb for Jim Edmonds.
He seems like a fine enough guy. Maybe not the best in his romantic life, but it's hard out there, Nate.
It is hard out there,
especially when you're, you think like he does.
Yeah. I met him in the Apple store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that
go? It was fine.
Okay.
What a fun anecdote. And with that, we're gonna wrap this episode up. So thanks everyone for listening. As always, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We'll be back next week as we get further and further into the off season. If you have a topic, something you'd like for us to discuss, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. 848-48-BIRDS or through any of the social media that we listed up front. Thank you again. And until next week, I'm going to say go Lane Thomas and the Guardians.
Yeah, Lane. Well, yeah, Lane and Bader. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Not the Mets.
I know.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right. We are belch,
fart,
burp,
hawk 2.
Are you the oh yeah, hawk
2? No, I was not trying to invoke the hawk 2 a girl.
I hear if you say hawk 2 3 times into a bathroom in the middle of the night, she comes out of the window.